Hi everyone, it's John Morley and welcome to my channel, Positive Vibrational Waves. And if you've just joined us for the first time, welcome. If you're here for a second, third, fourth, or many other time, welcome back. I do really appreciate you stopping by my channel. And I hope that the information that I share with you today and every day helps make your life just a little bit better than it was before. So today is actually the last day that we're going to talk about memory. We've been talking about memory for a while, and if you haven't gathered from listening for me before, every single week, Monday through Sunday, is a theme. And I'm actually not going to share tomorrow's theme with you till tomorrow. I'm going to keep it a surprise, so you'll be a little bit in the dark about that. But every single day for the rest of that week and this week, we talk about one particular theme, and then there's different sub themes that we talk about in that week. So this week we talked about memory, and we talk about all the different kinds of ways that you can memorize things. So one thing I want to talk about today, actually the last thing we're going to talk about today, is a way that you can actually help remember something. So we talked about how you can relax and get the mind in a better state and just not be distracted. That's one way, but there's lots of things you can do. One thing that you can do is actually take advantage of your body's senses, okay? Touch, hear, see, taste, and smell, okay? So how does that work? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to remember something, and a lot of times you may be in a noisy situation, but then all of a sudden you hear this very faint sound. Well, your body and mind is going to be more apt to remembering that faint sound. Why? Because you actually had to put more effort into listening to try to decipher what's going on, okay? If it was a louder sound, you probably weren't paying attention to those louder sounds. You're just paying attention to that small. So what we focus on is what we're able to make those neuroplastic connections, right, in our brain. But how does this work? Well, your brain has different neurons that fire when certain senses are activated, and then that activates certain memory areas in our brain. So one thing you can do if you want to remember something, maybe you're listening for something, maybe you're studying something and you're trying to hear something, like when a doctor listens to something, he has everything really quiet and he can kind of remember everything that he's listening to, like a heart or whatever. He can listen to that. Your sight. So your sight is another way that you can help remember things. But the thing is, a lot of people have sight every day. So sight sometimes doesn't always work. So what you have to do is couple your senses. So the more senses that you use, the taste, smell, touch, okay? So you have basically your five senses. You have your sight, you have your smell, you have your touch, you have your taste, and you have your hearing. Okay? The more senses you're able to involve, the easier it's going to be for you to remember something. Let's say, for example, you wanted to remember you were studying maybe bones, for example, and you wanted to remember the different bones, and you had the different bones from the skeleton so you could have them in front of you. Well, you could actually feel how the bones are, and you could get the curvature, and you could see how it is. Another thing you may want to do is maybe you wanted to remember, oh, I don't know, there are lots of things you could want to remember. Maybe you want to remember how to put something together. And in order to put something together, first you would look at the directions. You might look at how it gets put together, how it gets assembled. But you're not going to remember it just by doing that. Of course, you could do it by route, but that takes a really long time. So one thing you could think about is, when you're taking a package, we were doing a model airplane. And as you're taking that package, you're opening it. You can focus on, the envelope, what it feels like, the box. You can focus on the sound of the box opening. And then as you're starting to work with the different tools or the glue or things, you can kind of really pay attention. You can rub different things. You can see what the different textures are. Maybe you'll smell the balsa wood. And this will actually help to set the stage to allow you to memorize things a lot easier. Let's say, for example, you were having trouble memorizing, you had to memorize some points, okay? We already talked about a speech, but maybe there's some other points. You're not giving a speech, but you have to have these points in your head, and you didn't want to use the other techniques. So one thing you may want to do is have a scent. So by you having a scent, and then pairing it with whatever it is that you want to remember, so you can have the pie or the smell of a chocolate cake, or maybe the smell of a lemon from a fruit or a vegetable, what have you. And then when you smell that, and then you then immediately do whatever is that last thing is, or say this is what it is, it's going to be, I'm going to talk about this. You do it a couple times, at least 2 or 3 times. The next time you actually go to remember, you think of the lemon and immediately it comes to your mind. It's very similar to what we did when we did the stacking and we made things ridiculous. Well, this is a little bit different because now we're engaging more than just the visualization. We're actually engaging our senses. And our senses also have controls over our brain and the different neurons that fire. So maybe you'd have a scent in the beginning or maybe a scent at the end. And when you pair those scents and you pair a touch or you pair all these different things together, your mind is just going to be like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. You know, how many times have you gone out for a tree and maybe you smelt the pine needles and it brought you back to maybe a euphoric state, or maybe it brought you to the point where you remembered having hot chocolate or decorating the tree or sitting around the tree or just being with family and friends or having eggnog or whatever it is. So that puts you in that state. Remember I talked to you in the very, very beginning about something was we can't always be in the state we want to be in 24/7. We just can't be in that state automatically. What we can do, though, is condition ourselves so that if we fall out of that particular state, then guess what we do? It's very easy for us now to go ahead and do what we need to do, okay? Because now we can anchor ourselves. And just to review, because we talked about the other day, but now I'm going to talk about anchoring with sense. So before, when we talked about, you know, how you could think about something, you could pull an ear or you could pull your arm or hold a finger. And as you're doing that, you're thinking about that positive state or that positive time you had. Well, now what you can do is not only can you do it with just feeling and touch, because we were doing it only with touch, right? Now you can, and body physiology, you can actually do it with sense. Let's say you're in a really, really good mood, okay? So you're in a really, really good mood. And you're remembering this really, really good mood. And all of a sudden you feel that you're getting into a bad mood. Well, you can simply, maybe you have spearmint or you have gum or something around you. So whenever you chew a piece of gum or whenever you sense this smell or whenever you touch something or whenever you look at something, it can put you into the state which you want to be in. Think of it like this way. On a computer, if you hit the delete key, it's always going to delete a file, right? If the file, if it's protected, it's going to warn you. If the disk is protected, it won't let you. And this goes back many years ago, but now with computers, we don't have hard drives that are protected. We have files that are locked, and you can unlock the file. So where am I going with this? Well, it's really simple. If you are able to get yourself in these different states, maybe you want to be happy, maybe another time you want to be serious, and maybe it's just hard to get in these states because you just don't know how to do it quickly. Or maybe you can't do it when you're being observed. At work, maybe you have to get ready to be in a certain state, but you don't have 15 minutes to get in that state because your boss wants you to be in that state now. Or if you're a self-entrepreneur like myself, is maybe you want to be ready. Maybe something didn't go well with you with a particular client or something, and that happens. And you just have to take yourself out of it and say, okay, that's what happened today. Now, let me just smell the air, or let me smell this, or let me have a piece of chewing gum, or let me put myself in a certain physiology of state. Bam. Okay. Another thing might be You could actually have something that whenever you're chewing something, it could be gum, it could be whatever, but you're getting the point. You have more power than to just use touch or body physiology, because that's what we were really doing. We were doing body physiology and touch and things like that, but we weren't doing sounds. So how can you do it with a sound? Well, maybe one way you can do it with a sound, and you've seen psychologists do this, is they actually do a clap or a snap. So now you think about that really positive state, think about it, think about it, think about it, and just clap, and now you've associated that clap with that positive state, okay? A lot of times the clap is meant to divert your attention. That's why sometimes you might see some people, what they do is you get in this state, and if you're in a bad state, they take water, they throw at you. What it do? It interrupted your pattern. But that's a story for another day. What I want to get across to you guys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, is that when you want to be in a certain state, you just have to preload your system with how you want to be. You want to preload your system with being happy. So let's say you want to be really happy, really positive, that you can just conquer the world, right? So it's really easy to do. How would I do that? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about how positive I was, how I felt, maybe when I got an award, or maybe there was a time when I was really praised, or someone said, you did a great job. And think about all those great things. Or think about maybe when you got a promotion, or think about when you got hired, or think about how you felt when you solved the challenge, right? How did that feel? It felt really good inside. Or how did you feel if you're a salesman? How did you feel when you made that sale, that big sale? So now you're thinking about it really good. So now all you have to do while you're thinking about how great you felt is maybe you can do just something like, maybe you can just put your hand, instead of pinching yourself if you want, you could just put your hand on your heart. And keep thinking about it. So now you do that 2 or 3 times, and now the next time you're not feeling great. Wow, I feel really great. I feel awesome. So your body can't feel bad when it's in a really good state. It just can't do that. So if you never notice that when you're in a bad state, your body's not going to have this great physiology. It's going to be like slumped down, because the body just can't do it. It has to be in a positive state when you're like that. So one way is body physiology, which we talked about in the very beginning. But now what we're talking about is to use other things, other types of senses, like your eyes. Maybe when you look at a certain picture, for example. If I look at a certain picture, I have a picture here up on the mirror of a new house that I'm building. So if I look into that picture and I look at it and I look at it and I look at it, I think about that positive, how I feel. So whenever I feel bad, I just look at that picture and I'm immediately brought back to, I'm like transported, kind of like Star Wars. I'm just kind of, I'm just like transported back right into, let's say, a better zone than I am right now. Okay? So you can do it with pictures. You can do it with a scenery. You can do it with birds. You can do anything you want. So that's scenery. So how do you do it with your nose? Well, maybe you just want to be in a good state whenever you smell food. So anytime you smell food, but you have to be specific because the body is going to lock this in. Maybe you like to have a certain drink, or maybe it's coffee. So you can actually say, okay, gee, I'm feeling really good now. I'm smelling the coffee, smelling the coffee, smelling the coffee, smelling the coffee. So now not only are you doing it with your physiology, but you're doing it with holding it. So you could just do it without even touching the coffee now. You could just be at the coffee, feeling great, smelling the coffee, feeling great, feeling so wonderful, feeling so impeccably wonderful, like nothing could ever bother you. You're on top of the world. Just smell the coffee. So somebody says something to you and it takes you all the way down those stairs, and you just go back and you smell the coffee or whatever drink it is, and you're right back up again. So it's a real good body hack that allows you to get back to your peak state. I think this is amazing. In addition to smells, what else can we do? Well, we could do a taste. Maybe you have gum in your car, or mints. So if you feel before you're going to do a presentation, or maybe somebody said something to you that was offensive, all you do is just go to your drawer, or go to your dashboard, or your console between the seat, and just take that mint and put it in your mouth. Again, the whole action could be done, but I just want you to pair the feeling of only when the mint's in your mouth. So now when you get that mint in your mouth, so maybe you go somewhere else and you taste mint, and then you're suddenly going to feel great, because your body doesn't know the difference between the mint in your car and the other mint. You just conditioned it to mint. So you do it to foods. So that is a really good thing, especially if there's a food drink. Maybe you drink water all the time. As soon as your body tastes the water, that's another good way. Okay, so there's lots of things you can do. So we went through body physiology. We went through touch. We went through taste. We went through smell. How is it done with hearing? Well, that one's a little bit trickier. So now you're thinking about this positive state, positive state, positive state, and now all you have to do is just listen for silence and think about that positive state. And you're feeling great. So all you have to do to feel positive, if somebody says something to you or somebody's arguing with you, just step away and just get silence. And you're going to start feeling you're on top of the world. Okay? Another thing you could do with your ears is maybe a bell rings, or maybe your phone rings, so that you know you get a lot of phone calls during the day. Well, when you get that phone call that rings, it's going to put you into that peak state. So when the phone's ringing, you can obviously do this with your iPhone or Android. You can just play the tune, your ringtone, and whenever you're hearing that song, you're going to just drop into, oh yeah, I'm so positive. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine that actually was listening to a song, and unfortunately, not to give you the personal details, but something wasn't going so great in his life, and he heard this song, and he was hearing this song, and he didn't realize he was just hearing the song. He was trying to feel better, but in essence, it wasn't working. He thought he was feeling better, but then several years later, when he actually had resolved the situation, and guess what? He started to hear the same song again. He started to feel so depressed again. Why? The song's supposed to... No, because the song started to condition him, and it picked up the thing. You know, what Pavlov's dog, you know, when the dog basically has food, the dog salivates. So if you ring the bell, so now you take the food, you ring the bell, you keep doing this several times, and finally take away the food, ring the bell, the dog salivates. So sometimes you have to reinstill the trigger. So what I mean by that, because you could do it a couple times, you have to reinstill it. So maybe you have to reinstill the trigger, maybe you do it a couple times a week, but you just reinstill it. You just kind of like reprime yourself, like repriming the pump. And then once you do that, it's ready to go. So now that you hear that silence, you hear that phone, oh, like one of my songs, You Could Be the Best. So whenever I hear that song, you hear those phrases like, oh yeah, I'm great, I'm on top of the world. That's why a lot of times when you go to the gym, I love to do this, I will listen to music. And what the music will actually do is kind of remarkable. It will condition me to give me that little extra oomph even when I feel tired. It just, I don't know where it comes from. Just this extra amount of adrenaline just kind of pumps in just because of the music. And why does that happen? It happens because of a conditioning that causes my brain to give additional adrenaline that causes me to be able to lift that extra bit or to do that extra set of reps or those extra points. So that is amazing. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. So why else would you want to do this? So one is the phone rings. You could put yourself in a positive state. I know some people, when the phone ring, they're always like on edge. So that's one real good thing you can do. Another thing you can do is maybe, you're maybe intimidated. I had somebody for a long time ago, young person that was intimidated every time the door rang. They were always very scared. They were watching movies, and they were classically conditioned because every time the doorbell rang, it wasn't working. So now all they do is they bring the doorbell a couple times, and they keep thinking about people that they like to see at the door. Keep thinking about the positive emotions. Keep thinking about how they feel. Maybe thinking about how they're at a spa. And they just keep thinking about it as they ring the doorbell several times. So now when the doorbell rings, they feel like they're getting a neck massage or they're feeling really great. So the amount of possibilities you can do with this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely amazing. So what I would encourage you to do is to classically condition yourself so that you don't have those surprises. Because let's face it, life happens, right? And you can't control what's going to happen day by day. Okay, you can't control how you react, but how do you control how you react when somebody's just put you in a negative state? Well, that may not be as easy, even though with practice we can do it. But now that you have conditioning and you can just, well, okay, I'm not feeling great. Let me just go do this, or let me just go squeeze my fist or do something. And bam, I feel right in that peak state immediately. So that is one great way to put you back in state, but it's a good way to help you remember something. So not only does it put you into a state, it can also help you remember something. Maybe there was a formula you had to remember. And as you're holding your arm really, really tight, your fingers really, really tight, you're picturing that formula, you're picturing how it goes. Maybe it's just something like a squared plus c squared equals g squared, or whatever it is, or 4 times the side, or whatever the formulas you have to know, and you just think about it. Or maybe there's a function on the computer that you have to know, but you always forget where it is. So you can just take your fist and you can squeeze it really, really tight, And you can just think, oh, yeah, there it is. So when I hit the F key or I hit this key when I'm done, I always hit this key when I'm done. I hit this key when I'm done. So now at the end of the thing, all you do is squeeze your hand. Or maybe you have a situation, oh, I lost the order. Now what am I going to do? No problem. You conditioned yourself so that you always feel positive and I can always start over again. So now I did all this work and I said, no problem, just squeeze your hand. Oh, that's right, I can just start over. And your body, actually and mind, is quite remarkable because what happens is your body just says, okay, we're just reloading the program that says we can start over. A lot of times people in the world feel bad. It could be for age, it could be for a lot of reasons. And what I've noticed throughout the years is these are just false realities. They don't really mean anything. So all you have to do is say, okay, hey, I got it. I'm smarter. I know what's going on. And I'm okay. And I'm fine. And this is just a perception I have right now, but it's not real. You see, what makes people feel bad and depressed and all these things is they put so much energy in it and they float on it. And they're like, oh, I'm this or I'm that or whatever, I'm fat or whatever it is. And they just put energy into it. If you say, okay, so I may not be at the current weight that I want to be at today, and that's fine. I'm working on a plan to become healthier. That's all. And that's it. So you have to realize the state that you are in today is not the state you're going to be in tomorrow if you change your thoughts. Or the dollars that are in your wallet today, it's not the dollars you're going to have later if you change your thoughts. Your thoughts up to now are actually the result of what you have or what you're being from the past. If you want to know what's going to happen in 30 days or down the road, if you change your thoughts now and down the road and you're great, well, that's because your thought pattern changed. All right, this stuff is really remarkable. I know we're getting kind of off topic. So to sum up, we've learned a lot about memory. We talked about in the very beginning, we talked about chunking. We talked about how you can cluster digits. With chunking, we talked about how you can use the ridiculousness of making things ridiculous. And I bet you'll still remember today what was the what was on top of the milk. The milk was bread, and what was on top of the milk? Eggs with bread. And you still remember it, right? Those of you that tuned into my video, you still remember that from a few days ago, right? And if we go all the way up, so we actually, if we were just to sort of see how good our memory is, so now we had the bread, we had the eggs, okay, right? We had the eggs right there on top of the bread, and what did we have on top of the bread? We had little teepees of cheese, okay, and around the teepees of cheese, what did we have? We had the broccoli or spinach grass. And next to that, what did we have? Flying on the end of the kite? The toothpicks. So you see, you really do have a good memory. The more you practice, the more you're going to make yourself like, geez, I'm really smart. The reason a lot of people don't have a good memory, I'll be honest with you, is that first of all, they don't believe in it. And the second thing is they don't practice. Are you going to be able to lift all kinds of weight? If you've never lifted weights, you're going to be able to lift 10, 20, or 30, or 40, or 50 pounds or anything if you never lifted before? Maybe you can lift something, but are you really going to be able to lift as much as somebody that's been lifting for months or years? No. Your muscles have not been conditioned or been practicing. Same thing with this. Your brain is a muscle, and that muscle needs to be practiced. And a little bit different than the way we think of a muscle because it's actually synaptic, going from one side to the other. So in sense of a muscle being contracting, we actually have pathways that are creating, the neurons to create from one side to the other of the brain. And that's what's happening. So you're building more pathways. And the more pathways you build, guess what? The more intelligent you are. Let's think about this last thought, and then we do have to wrap up. If you were to think about, let's say you were to think about the internet, for example, okay? Or let's take something really simple. Let's not even talk about computers. Let's have it really simple. Let's say you had a faucet. You had a pipe, and that pipe was a big, I don't know, let's say it was a big 10-foot pipe or so. And that 10-foot pipe went all the way from the source all the way out to this great big swimming pool that we're trying to fill. Okay? Now, if you wanted to fill another swimming pool at the same time, and you tapped off of that pipe, okay, with one little pipe, let's say a 4-inch pipe, and it tapped up with another 4-inch pipe, eventually it takes water slowly away from the big pool dump, but then you start to get more water. So my point is that the more connections you have to the other side, which would be the other pool or whatever it is, you're going to get information to pass a lot quicker. And because you have more connections, you're going to be able to transfer information quicker, and you're going to be able to do it basically in a fraction of the time. So as we get better with the way we actually practice with our brain, and as we practice that, and as we start to use these techniques, and we start to realize that, we are really smart, we are really intelligent. I mean, I bet you didn't think that first exercise I showed you was going to make you believe that you have a great brain. But you all have a great brain. You don't all have to be engineers. You don't have to be rocket scientists, physicists, chemists. You could be anything. And you're still extremely intelligent. It's just recognizing the fact, first of all, that you are intelligent. Second, giving yourself a chance so that you can see you are intelligent, and practicing and using techniques to build your intelligence. That's what it is. And then revering in how great you feel because, wow, I remember somebody's name. We even did name memorization. Remember we did that? How do you remember somebody's name? Well, we said you could think about what they're wearing, but maybe they're going to wear something different next time. So you get to learn about what they do. And maybe, like we said, let's say Tom works for let's say he works for a tennis manufacturing company. And he actually said that he makes tennis rackets. So you can actually picture Tom, okay, in the factory making a tennis racket with the name TOM on there, or maybe doing it in string, or having the strings all done, and then him spray painting TOM on the gunite of the strings, which you're using for the racket. I don't think you're ever going to forget Tom's name again. So you could remember one person's name, 5 people's names, 10 people's names. It doesn't matter. You can do it first names, you can do it last names. So once you start to be able to do this, you're going to see that you're going to get your confidence back. When you start to develop more confidence, this is going to happen. You're going to develop more intelligence. When you develop more intelligence, you're going to get quicker at the things you already were doing. And you're going to make connections that you didn't really see, or see these subtle modalities that they weren't visible before. A lot of times you look at a puzzle, right? The first time you look at the puzzle, it doesn't look like it's solvable immediately, but then you come back, it's like, oh, I see how that goes now, or I get the idea. Your brain is going to do the same thing. It is going to be able to make those type of deductions that you couldn't make as quickly because the faculties from your left and right brain were not as connected. So it took a lot more time to get the data from one side to the other. I hope that you have found this week of memories videos to be very useful in improving your brain. And I hope that you like the video. And if you do, I hope that you'll choose to click on the subscribe button at the lower right. And of course, be sure to click on the notification bell icon right next to it so that you can be told as soon as I publish new content. Again, I'm not going to share with you what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. You're going to have to tune in for that, but it will be an entire week of that theme. And I will see you tomorrow. So have yourself a great day or a good rest of the night, depending on when you're listening to me, and we'll see you soon.